Welcome to this new series here on YouTube, Position of the Week. I'm Grandmaster Aagaard, and I'm going to show you a new position every week, or another trainer from killerchesstraining.com is going to show you a position every week, and it is our intention or our hope that you will pause the video and you will think for a little bit for yourself and then come with a suggestion, and then we'll explain the position for you. This is all done, of course, in a shameless attempt to get you to go to killerchesstraining.com and visit us. We are an online academy which provide the best prices and the best trainers. And we have a lesson every day. And our members are very happy and very vocal about it. So we'll probably bring some testimonies here at some point. Okay, let's go to the position. So this is taken from the Russian Junior Championship. This was played on board 2, I think, in the 6th round, and it was played yesterday. So Black is actually a member of Killer Chess Training, Voldemar Morsin, and at the point of speaking, he has 5 points out of 6, and it is the shared first in this tournament. So here, the first things I notice when I look at this position is I notice the rook is out of play. I also notice that there is a check here, or a potential for exploiting the very weak white king. And then I also notice that the knight here is a little bit unstable. I normally look for what is my opponent trying to do, but here I'm not so sure. Morsin, he came up with a very nice idea, and it actually uses these things that I observe in a brilliant way. First, he played the rook to c8, attacking the knight. Now, if the knight withdraws, we can exchange rook, and the queen comes with a check, and white does not have this very necessary defensive move, rook to h3. Also, we're threatening now at the moment rook takes, and queen takes, and black wins the knight. And if white supports it with the queen, then comes a little combination. Rook takes, and now check. Again, the rook cannot come over for defense. Some squares are covered by the bishop, so the king must go here, and we have check here. The only legal move would be this, and this checkmate. So this is sort of the starting point. But white sees this, of course, and chooses to support the knight with the pawn. And here comes the real idea for black. And if you haven't understood yet what black's trying to do, please pause the video, hit the space bar, and think for yourself for at least a minute or two. We have to remember that real improvement in chess comes from better thinking, and better thinking comes from practicing thinking. So here, Voldemar, he played b6, undermining the knight. Again, the knight cannot move. Like, for example, if the knight goes here, we take, and again, we have checkmate. So white has no real choice but to take the pawn, and then comes the real point of black's play, which is undermining the knight here. We can see that if white chooses to take this pawn, we will take here, and there are a number of other options here. The computer was suggesting that maybe white should play this, which looks a very passive move. Black would certainly take this pawn. White could try to play this move. We'd move the rook and prepare to play bishop takes pawn or queen takes knight. Protection here. So a position like this, and actually this is even material. And when I was a very young player, I didn't fully understand that you could have a position with even material and reduced material and still be dead lost. But here, white is dead lost, and this is because of two factors. The one is that the pawn is passed, it's very strong, and it's a real problem for white. And the other is the advance of these pawn, which means that we have avenues of danger that can come towards the white king. And this is why we should be very careful moving the pawns in front of our king. It can later turn out in a very bad way, as indeed does here. So computer analysis continued with queen c2, rook c7, queen a2, and rook c3. And we can see that we are exchanging the defender. The pawn is, if we have take, for example, the pawn is getting closer and we're ready to come in with the rook. And this is not really forced. A lot of things can happen. I should mention here, white can take this pawn, but it doesn't matter. The black pawn is far more advanced, and the white king is open. So there will not be any real counterplay for white in this case. So let's go back a little bit. So takes here, and in the game, white played the rook to d3, which is a very reasonable move. And here actually this is, okay, black took the pawn and white played here. And here actually this is a very difficult decision. And this is the most challenging position in this example. And if you want to, again, invest a little time in trying to work out what's happening, you should think for a bit. Okay, so here, black played a very natural move. Black played rook b8. It looks very natural. We're about to take the pawn. What could be more natural? But in reality, the rook belongs on e8. And this has to do with the fact that after exchange sacrifice like this, the rook is perfectly placed on e8, defending the pawn, dealing with the white e pawn. And here, for example, here we come back and push the knight away. And otherwise, here we can see the queen cannot come to the aid of the knight because this pawn is hanging. So here the white position doesn't work very well. On the other hand, we can see that if in this position, like in the game, the rook was on b8, then white would have knight a6, attacking both rooks. So this means that here rook b8 was actually a small mistake. It's a very difficult game, and here white played take, which was absolutely the best choice. And the bishop is simply too strong. The threats down towards the white king are too strong. And here, if white had played e6, the position would still have been very unclear. But instead, we can see here with the rook is going somewhere, the knight can come in here and attack both rooks also. So white gains counterplay. But instead, white played queen takes d5. And this was a simple blunder. Actually, he resigned without resuming play. I presume because of check, and now he's about to lose a number of pawns with check. And black will defend the rook. We can say something like here. Oh, that was not quite accurate. Here, and then one possibility is simply move the king. And white doesn't have anything directly working in his favor here. It's one of those cases where you were thinking white could have played a few more moves before resigning, and he probably should have. But I would guess the outcome would be the same. Anyway, this has been Position of the Week. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week, surprisingly. And by then we might upgrade the technology a little bit, or we'll do it later. The main thing for me is always the chess, and for me always to explain things in the most accessible way possible. And whether or not I succeed in this is up to you. See you later.